What's good, guys? Welcome back to Behind the Dugouts for your latest transfer news video. And we have had lots of updates. We've got a new update on Renato Vega's situation, some news on Nicholas Jackson, advancements in the Ekitike deal with Liverpool, as well as Bayern Munich's pursuit for a new forward. But before I get into all of that, I've got a piece of humble pie that needed to be served to PSG. There's been a piece that's come out over the course of today regarding a dinner that PSG and Chelsea attended on the eve of the Club World Cup. And this is what has been said. At a FIFA dinner on the eve of the Club World Cup final, the Chelsea delegation noted how preoccupied the representatives of PSG were with how and where they would collect the trophy. Chelsea people informed Enzo Maresca of this, and he passed this on to the players. Now, this is a clear case of believing you've won something before you've actually won it. And the arrogance that PSG have shown in this situation, it is just makes the victory even more sweeter, that they were thinking about where where they're going to get the trophy rather than focusing on more so preparing to face this Chelsea side. And it shows that how much they did underestimate us in the final, and that goes globally. There wasn't really anybody, news outlets, other fan bases that gave us a chance of winning this game. And it's one of those things that, as it's mentioned, it's got back to the players, and this would have definitely fueled the fire for Enzo Maresca and the Chelsea players to go out there and prove everybody wrong and show that if you go in too arrogant, you could end up with mud on your face. And that's exactly what happened. And PSG come away with nothing but tears, while Chelsea come away with elation and the Club World Cup. It's just a beautiful thing, and I love it when a piece of humble pie does get served. And in this situation is exactly what happened, and it does sort of factor in why there was such an outburst. Even in the game, there was little niggles and players sort of striking out, and then at the end of the game, Luis Enrique really lost his head. And it sort of shows, if you go into a game thinking that you've already won it before you've won it, and then you go and get beaten, the frustration, the pure emotion that comes with the embarrassment of what was to believe to be a very easy game for PSG, it's made tempers boil over. So it's lovely. It has made that victory even more sweeter, just knowing that they got served with a bit of humble pie. But moving on from that, obviously give me your thoughts on that one below. Now, Renato Vega, we have had an update on Vega's situation. We mentioned in my video yesterday that Premier League clubs were interested, and clubs like Bayern and Atletico. Now, there has been an update with the Atletico Madrid inquiry. This is the latest on Renato Vega. Atletico Madrid have now made direct contact with Renato Vega's camp, and the player is keen on the move. Chelsea insist on a package worth at least 40 million to sell Vega, with Atletico prepared to advance negotiations. But yeah, this was a player that I always expected to be moved on. The writing was written on the wall for Vega back when he made his move to Juventus in the window after only spending 6 months with us. And it just never really aligned. The club's vision, his vision, never really aligned together. It just didn't suit. He wasn't happy with the game time he was getting, wasn't happy with the positions that he was playing in. Even though he himself said he was a versatile player, he wanted to play as a centre-back. He was obviously used as a left-back and occasionally in midfield. So it made sense for him, if it wasn't going to work under Maresca, to move him on, to loan him out to Juventus, and now they're looking for a permanent move, and it's going to be a good bit of business. One thing I can say about this deal is we are going to pretty much triple our money, bringing him for about 14 million euros to now potentially get up to 40 million euros. It's a good bit of business, and not every player that we do sign is going to make it. And with the way that the club are structuring their business, they are looking at buying these young quality talents in, keeping the best ones for ourselves, and then moving and flipping players for profit to bring in another revenue source for the club, in order to grow. Now, not everyone's going to agree with it, but this is part of football, and this is what's going to happen, especially in Chelsea with the way that it's run. This is what's going to happen. You're going to see a lot And we have seen a lot already over just these 3 years of how many players have been brought in and then moved on. And for Vega's situation, he is going to be moved on for a good profit. So it is good business. But I wish him all the best when he does eventually make his move. But that is the latest on Vega. Moving into another player that's potentially on his way out, and that's Nicholas Jackson. Now, this is the latest on Nicholas Jackson to Man United. Manchester United have held talks with Nicholas Jackson's representative, Ali Barat, over a potential move. A lot needs to happen in terms of outgoings for United, but one that could happen in the right circumstances. Worth noting, Chelsea have a long-term interest in Garnacho. Look, this is a deal that I think potentially could happen. United do need a striker, and there are not many left out there in terms of the right quality. Nicholas Jackson being Premier League proven does help his case. The only thing that worries me about this deal is the Garnacho link. It has been made very evident for many transfer windows now. Back in the summer, there was little links to it. It ramped up again in January, and we're still hearing about it in the summer, is the potential swap deal of Jackson and Garnacho. Now, if I take my bias hat off, obviously the problem with Garnacho is the outside football. It's what happens off the pitch and the publicity that he brings off to the football club. And it's been an absolute nightmare for United, to the point now they are trying to push him out the door, and I'm pretty sure would sell him to anybody that would come. But for me, Garnacho, it just hasn't set the world alight. He hasn't done enough. And I wouldn't put him above a player like Gittins, who we've brought for the left wing already. I feel that he's going to offer a lot more than Garnacho would. But again, I have to think about, is Garnacho not performing because he's at United? You know, there has been glimpses of some good quality. Again, he's also a young player. He's 21, so he's still got lots of time to develop, lots of time to improve, and maybe under the guidance of the right coach and with more quality players around him, and not such a dysfunctional, disjointed team that even, you know, watching their most recent game, and albeit a pre-season friendly, and you don't really look too much into the pre-season, they didn't look that great. It was still a lot of the same. There was no real style change. There was no real link up. It was still a lot of the same. And again, it's going to take Amarin time to embed some of his new players. Obviously, Mbeumo had just done his medical and signed, so he wasn't a part of that, but Cunha did play. So, you know, United fans got to see him out, but it was still a lot of the same. Now, Garnacho could be one of those players that has just, you know, been held back because of United and the way that they are at the moment. And he could make the move to Chelsea potentially and completely change and absolutely tear it up. It's a risk. It is a big risk. And to be honest, it's not a risk that I would want the club to take. If they're going to sell Jackson to United, then I would say sell him, but not for a swap. Just sell him and get the cash, and let's reinvest it. We've obviously had the links to Eze. Eze is a player that I would take. Morgan Rogers I would take over Garnacho, obviously 100%. I'd even take Jerry Simmons over him, even though Garnacho has played in the league. I would still prefer Jerry Simmons in terms of the quality that he could bring over Garnacho. But I'm not going to write it off, because you just never know with these owners. You never know with these sporting directors, and the fact that we've potentially courted him and been monitoring for so long, and there is now the opportunity to offload Jackson there potentially. It's looking ever so more likely, especially being that Morgan Rogers' price is quite high. Eze's price, apparently, you know, he has the release clause of, I think, 65, 68 million, but according to some reports, he's asking for a lot in wages, which could, you know, put the club off. It's happened quite often with players. And the Javi Simmons deal, though it's been mentioned, Arsenal are also interested. Nothing's really materialised as of yet, and haven't heard any new information, but the Garnacho thing just keeps creeping up. That's the only thing that worries me about this deal, but we'll keep a close eye on it. I'll keep you posted if anything comes in relatively soon. But let me know in your thoughts down below if you did, advocate this deal. Would you take Garnacho, or would you just do a straight sell to Man United and take the cash? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on to a here we go. We spoke about it yesterday. Liverpool had put in a bid for Ekitike, trying to, push Newcastle and pip them to the signing of Ekitike, because Newcastle were not willing to negotiate for, Alexander Isak. It was 150. If you were not going to pay that, then they're not even going to entertain anything. And considering Liverpool have spent quite a lot in this transfer window, and I have to admit, they are very ambitious Premier League winners, and they're going out and they're acting like Premier League winners. They're going out and buying all the players that they need to strengthen the squad. Trent's gone, so they've brought in backups, replacements for him. Kirkes and Frimpong, I think, going to do really, really well. They've, bought in Florian Wirtz for big money. So they're investing into the squad, which is what they need to do. All the other teams around them are investing in the squad. Same with Chelsea. City are investing. Arsenal are investing to compete against Liverpool next season. So they need to invest in themselves to, they want to retain the title. They want to go out and win it again next year. And the only way they're going to do that is by improving the squad. And they're definitely doing that. And here is another one. So this is the latest on Ekitike. Breaking: Hugo Ekitike to Liverpool. Here we go. Deal in place for a fee of over 90 million for the French striker to join from Eintracht Frankfurt, potentially reaching 95 million euros. A 6-year deal for Ekitike, valid until June 2031. He only wanted the Liverpool move. New striker for slot. And well, this deal really materialised quite rapidly. It was only yesterday we were talking about the first bid, and since then there's been a second bid that's been put in. It's been accepted, and now we've got the here we go. And Liverpool have definitely acquired themselves a very talented young striker. Ekitike is a quality footballer. I don't think he's worth yet the money that they're paying. He will get there 100%. He's very similar stylistic wise to Alexander Isak from Newcastle, a player that Liverpool were also trying to get hold of. So there is a lot of potential. The ceiling for this player is very, very high. I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to do pretty well. He definitely suits the way that Liverpool play football. And I think he will fit into this squad a lot better than their previous acquisition in Darwin Núñez. I do feel that, even though he did do pretty well in the preseason game today for Liverpool, I do see Ekitike as being that starting forward pretty much as soon as he comes in. But it's one of those. I know we were linked to Ekitike for a little bit. I would have taken Ekitike. I think if we were to move on Jackson and then brought in Ekitike as a replacement, I would be really happy with that. I think, again, similar type of players in the way that they like to dribble with the ball. Ekitike's finishing, it looks a lot better than Jackson, as well as his ball control is a lot better than Jackson. It was just the price, I think, that held us off from going in for him, touted at 100 million euros, and they've pretty much got that with the add-ons going up to 95 million. So, fair play to Liverpool. At the moment, they're throwing the money where they need to get in these players to strengthen their squad, and they've got out and gone and got themselves a very good young striker. It would be interesting to see how he develops and how he does next season. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, how do you think he will do? Do you think he'll come in and play well at Liverpool, or do you think he will flop? Be interesting to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now, with the acquisition of Ekitike, there could potentially be a player on the way out. And from my understanding, the player has also made it clear to the club that he would be willing to move and that he does want to move. And there is a club interested in him. So this is the latest on Luis Diaz and Bayern Munich. Bayern are set to bid again for Luis Diaz in order to find an agreement with Liverpool. He's a top target. And Malik Fofana has been added to the shortlist if Liverpool won't sell Diaz. Bayern already made contact to ask for Fofana deal conditions. Now, this is a move that I think the Liverpool fans would not want to happen. I'm sure Arne Slot would like to keep Luis Diaz, but it's one of those situations where if a player wants to move, and that's what's been reported, potentially for a new challenge, it doesn't make much sense in keeping the player around. And this could be the reason why they've gone out and spent that money on Hugo Ekitike. It's almost a natural replacement for Diaz, as Ekitike can play out on the left, but he could also play Darwin Núñez out on the left with Ekitike through the middle. So Liverpool do have options, and it looks like they've bought in a replacement if Diaz is potentially sold. It's going to come down to affordability really for Bayern. In the two players, Malik Fofana, the other player that they're interested, would definitely be the more affordable option out of the two, although Lyon are struggling themselves financially. They were relegated to League Two, but since been overturned. So they're going to command a fee, for one of their biggest assets, but I still think it would be cheaper than Luis Diaz. So it's going to be down to the affordability for Bayern, to depending on which player they're going to go for. And if Luis Diaz does make the move, it does initially weaken Liverpool from a Chelsea perspective. That's great because they've strengthened so much. If they were to weaken a little bit, it just, helps teams in terms of challenging for next season. But it'll be interesting to see how this one materializes. Now, finish lastly on a little bit of Man United news. Fans were, about to lose their heads and pop champagne because there was a little rumor coming out that they were going to hijack the Yarez deal from Arsenal. So this is what has been said. Victor Yarez maintains his clear position despite links with Man United and more clubs. He wants Arsenal. Total priority to Arsenal project since June and no change of plans with agent. Hassan on the same page with Yarez. Now, as much as it would have been absolutely hilarious if this was to happen and if United had to come in and hijack this from Arsenal, it's not going to happen. Though they, rumoured to have put a bid in to Sporting that was more than what Arsenal were offering, Yarez has stated, and it's been made publicly again in that statement there, that he only wants to join Arsenal. So it's just not going to happen. Sporting and United can agree on a fee as much as they like, but if the player doesn't want to move there, he's not going to agree personal terms. So it's just not going to work out for both parties. So I don't see this as happening. And I think a lot of the United fan base, though they would be, they're excited that it could potentially happen, they also understand that it's not going to happen. There's too far down the line with Arsenal. They've been agreeing these add-ons for pretty much this whole week. So I expect this to come to a conclusion relatively soon. You'll probably find the early part of this week it will be done and they will agree this deal. But, it was funny. It would still be hilarious. There's always that slight chance. Again, if a player's not pictured holding up that shirt with a signed contract, there's still always that chance. But again, I don't see that as being possible. I think it's just too far gone now. But for now, guys, that is all from me. If you are enjoying that content, please hit that like button. Drop a comment below. Feedback is greatly appreciated. But for now, take care of yourselves and I will catch you in the next one.